Everybody, Brian Good here, going back to Storm Talk for the setup here for the next few days as we get a little more activity on the radar to talk about, although we've had some past couple of days, really, with these thunderstorms that are taking advantage of that heat and humidity that's been building in the afternoon periods. It's been active again in Cincinnati. It's just been hammered every single day, it seems like, with heavy rain, flooding, severe weather kind of a deal. We're waiting to see what's going to happen here for the rest of the morning period into the afternoon. Because we're quiet now. In fact, there's hardly a cloud to be found in our neck of the woods. But there is a weak boundary that still remains in this general vicinity that has been there during the overnight. It was actually a little band of clouds when I got in this morning, and it's laying pretty much right here along I-75. We're waiting to see if that can develop into thunderstorm activity. And then also, we're already starting to see some cumulus clouds starting to go up here in a similar spot as yesterday. That may try to develop as well. So there's, again, randomness to the activity really for today. There's a couple of boundaries we've been able to at least pick out, but it doesn't mean they will blossom because we have a somewhat of a cap, not a strong cap at all. It's relatively weak, in fact. But it's difficult to pinpoint them until they really can build up enough and we can get a handle on them. But just like the past couple of days, they can rain themselves out. But if they can work together as a team, and you can then produce more of these outflow boundaries like we saw yesterday that came through Louisville with some gusty winds, and that is a possibility. That's just the daytime activity that I'm referring to, all right? Because we have a lot of fuel in place. The humidity it's still there. It's going to be hot again today. We're not alone in the humidity. Look how much of a tropical feel it is in this section of the Ohio Valley and to the Midwest. We do have a bit more wind energy to work with. There's some aerial pressure in the front, very weak front moving through the Midwest. And if you look carefully, right there, he's even a bit of a spin, small little vort spinning there across portions of Indiana. It's got a tail to it. This will likely develop into thunderstorms at some point and move into Ohio later on today. So kind of a wild-looking feature there. But we're going to get hot. How hot that will be determined by the cloud cover. We had a lot of cumulus clouds yesterday, and if you get too many of them, then that slows the thermometer down a bit. But I do see the potential, especially based on the satellite image, that we could have a good amount of heating to get us up there over 90 again. How far into the 90s is questionable. The record is 94. At this point, since we are starting off a bit lower than yesterday at this time, that should be a little bit more of a struggle to get up to that point like yesterday, but still I think 90 or higher is certainly reachable today. So, here's the game plan. We're going to be tracking this vort, little pieces of energy moving across the Midwest as it moves into the Great Lakes and northern Ohio Valley in the next 12 to 24 hours. Because we're going to have these little, what we call outflows, these cold pooling waves of rainfall that will have an arc to them. Gusty winds is the biggest threat with them, but they will eventually cold pull out, so we call it. They get too far away from the energy it's supplying them, and we get to that point, and then the cold air is dominant. There's no more heat being fueled into this line, and then they fade out. Here's a perfect example of what I just described to you, all that gibberish. Look at this here. This was a line of thunderstorms in central Iowa. And look what happened to that line as it moved into eastern Iowa. See how it kind of just gets separated from the rain band, and the rain band disintegrates actually behind it. That's cold pulling out. We saw that yesterday right through the Louisville area. Still producing wind, some rain. But we will likely see the same thing today, except there's going to be likely two of them. We've been able to at least indicate. One will fire up later on today and track somewhere in this direction and maybe even southeast. They love high dew points, so it just depends on who has the higher dew point really at this point in the day where it wants to go. And then the second one's going to form right behind it. And the question is it going to form at the exact same time? If so, it may try to merge with the first one, or it'll be delayed enough that it'll come in right behind it and take a very similar path. And it's a very complicated setup. It's not an easy one to solve here because there's not really one dominant feature in this area. There's little ones, little small ones, but they're significant as far as their chronological ability to move across the Ohio Valley. One affects the other, cause and effect kind of deal. So that's the kind of question we need to answer here today, and that's going to be something we're going to take hour by hour. This is a pure nowcasting kind of setup here. Having said that, let me at least show you the Storm Prediction Center's latest. They got the slight risk where most of the initiating segments are going to be today in the yellow area, and then marginal risk in the southeast side of that, which includes our northern counties. But I really could argue marginal really for most of western and central Kentucky, I think should be in a marginal because everybody pretty much has the same kind of deal. Although, the more they pull out, away from the main energy source tonight and cold pull out, they will disintegrate. So I can understand why the category fades out. I just think it may need to be a little more south. But we'll see how it trends for the midday update. Let me show you a couple of the models. Here's the RPM in-house model that we got. First off, for this afternoon, it's not seeing the boundary to the east of 65, and instead is focused on activity popping west of I-65. Here comes the first little round of thunderstorms popping, that first little wave. Watch what it does. It tracks into Ohio. There's almost like a second one that pops in behind it, but it's really still part of the first one that is moving through Indiana. The clock, 11 o'clock. This is a Boeing segment to it. This is going to have some strong winds. Likely severe weather is going to be an issue here with winds around 60 miles per hour. But as it crosses away from the main energy source into Kentucky, it should begin to fade out. But look what happens. Another one forms along it too, right along the Ohio River near sunrise tomorrow with another round of very heavy rain. This is going to be, at this point, the first one is more of a damaging wind threat. The one that could take place 5 or 6 in the morning would be a flooding threat, because I could see a training of one thunderstorm cell over another. That's something that needs to really be watched overnight tonight. And then it's out of here. And then if we get this batch early in the day, by the way, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., then the afternoon activity is going to be very, very spotty, so we've lowered the rain chance down. We may end up mainly dry on Thursday. But if we, that's highly dependent on the idea that we're going to have a lot of activity going on during the overnight period and early in the morning. That will quiet things down for most of the day. If we miss out on the overnight activity, then Thursday will be a little more active than what is shown here. So a lot of uncertainty on tomorrow as well. Now let me show you the high-res model. Now I can't see all the way out into the overnight, but it gives us at least a hint. First off, as we get through the afternoon period, it sees that boundary east of 65. So it begins to blossom thunderstorms around 1 or 2 o'clock today, but closer to I-75. But it does see it. And the HERT model has done a good job the past couple of days picking up on these little boundaries. So I think this is certainly a plausible idea. Now, will it develop all the way into Louisville? I don't know. That will certainly affect our heating of the day as well, how hot we can get. But at this point, I think I-75 is a greater risk. Now, as you look to the west, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, here we go. We're getting that batch forming. As it rolls on, as the model animates, there we go, into this evening, it's trying to combine the two waves. Instead of having one come through Indiana and Ohio, it's trying to create a 1-2 punch as well, but in a different way. It brings in this batch of rain, which looks ugly, I know, on the radar. This is a batch of heavy rain thunderstorms around 9 o'clock or so, but look what happens to it. It cold pulls out. You can even see the separation. I love these high-res models. You can even see the separation from it. So, yes, severe weather would be possible here, but as soon as it crosses over to Kentucky, it just fades out. But this is where the model stops. If you look to the west, another round is trying to form at the last minute. And that would be here at 6 a.m. Again, that one, just like the RPM was hinting at 6 a.m., those are ideas for flooding that will need to be watched. It's that first initial round, sunset to midnight, that would have a damaging wind threat with it. And it may not even hit us. It depends on how quickly it cold pulls out and fades. And I can't answer that for you entirely yet. All right, the weekend. Friday, by the way, looks hot and mainly dry. That has not changed. Saturday, thunderstorm chance early and again late, but it's mainly Sunday. Father's Day we're talking about with the main front moving in, especially in the afternoon into the evening. Thunderstorms roll in. Severe weather is possible, but this looks to be a heavy rain threat as well for Sunday night into Monday. And it will lower the humidity down. It'll wipe out all that dark green. So it'll feel good by Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, but it won't last long because we're going to increase the humidity and the heat back in as we head toward the extended period there. So a lot to monitor, though, guys, just in the next 24 hours, even 12 hours. We got our hands full. So make sure to stay close to the way through these weather app today. Ryan and Kevin, I have a lot more on the setup here for what's going to happen this evening overnight with the 1-2 punch deal and whether or not we need to worry about that at all still or not. They will know that in much better fashion than I do right now. So make sure to tune in later today. Stay tuned.